We have two books featured this week on the Comic Vault. We've decided to do some Star Trek and Star Wars this week because we are equal opportunity star
people,
whatever people. Yeah, I mean, like super popular star in whatever in the science fiction,
star IPs,
fantasy realm. We're gonna do Star Wars Legacy in a little bit, but if you don't mind, I'm gonna start with Star Trek.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna start with Harlan Ellis's "The City on the Edge of Forever," the original teleplay. It's the sort of title that just rolls off your tongue.
Yep.
You were making fun of that the other day.
I just want to only refer to it as Star Trek Harlan Ellison's "The City on the Edge of Forever," the original teleplay.
My argument was, yeah, but you need all of that information
to understand what you're looking at.
What you're even looking at. Yeah, I wonder if the Tiptons or whoever ended up deciding on what was going to go on the cover, if they didn't rack their brains a little bit.
How is it formatted on your cover, like text-wise?
It doesn't look as good as yours.
Okay. Because
although I will give it. If you break it up, it doesn't feel silly. Like you wouldn't make fun of it as much if Star Trek was up here.
Yeah.
And then we, you know.
Yeah, because it's part of the title of my version.
Yeah. But I think that's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. Anyway, yeah. We're just talking about covers of trades today. That's all we're doing. So, Eric had a copy of this already.
I already had a copy of this. I got this for Christmas a few years ago.
Did I buy it for you?
No, Matt bought it for me.
Oh, weird. Cool.
Yeah, because he knows I like Harlan Ellison despite never having read anything the man has written. I have now read something the man has written.
Yeah, and that's funny because that was, of course, well before you even dabbled in Star Trek.
Yep.
And I'm glad that we're doing this now because we had always talked about it. Since you had a copy and you never read it, and it was like, well, that would give us an excuse to do it.
Yeah.
But now we're in, Eric post Star Trek,
yeah.
And so this probably, meant more to you.
Absolutely.
In looking at it now.
The episode too, because I'd watched the episode before, and I was like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. I like the episode considerably more now.
Probably got a little more out of it since you've been immersing yourself a little bit in Star Trek. So I like your cover more.
Me too. I agree.
This is part of the Eagle Moss graphic novel collection.
I like your spine more.
I agree. Yeah, well, especially when you put it all together.
Yes, yes.
I mean, it already looks cool with the, 8 other books I have right now, but anyway, eventually it's going to be 48. It's going to look just lovely. This was the second book that you got from that, which was
nice.
Kind of exciting because, it's one of the best things they've published, and it's one of the few things that I would want to have in a hardcover even if I already owned it another way, because I already have the singles. But anyway, why don't we just go ahead and delve right into it. So you hadn't seen City on the Edge of Forever in a long time, and we
maybe a couple of years ago, yeah,
went ahead and sat down and refreshed. I
think at some point I sat down to watch it when I got this. And I was like, I'm gonna watch the episode before I read what it originally was.
And so, if you're not familiar, the idea here is the Tiptons, who've written a lot of Star Trek books for IDW, went back to the original Harlan Ellison script and verbatim translated it to comic book form, much like right after this. Really, I think almost right after this, we got the Star Wars the same way.
Yeah.
And obviously by a different company. And it is 5 issues, and
I wonder if this gave them the idea.
That's a really good question, but I think I heard that was also a thing that people talked about for a while. Was kind of limbo. I'm not sure, but anyway, I did an interview with the Tiptons, and you can go listen to that a couple years ago, not too long after this came out, and they talked to me about, or I'm sorry, not with both of them. I talked to. I'm pretty sure it was Scott. I'm pretty sure.
It's funny.
It's just been a while.
They're brothers, right?
Yes.
So whenever I hear, at least in comics, whenever I hear something like that, like the Tiptons, I always assume it's a husband-wife couple because so many of them are.
Yeah, good point.
Like the Dotsons.
I always say that because I never remember
the Allreds.
I don't always remember their first names.
Yeah.
But Scott and David Tipton, and they anyway in that interview they talked to me about talking to Harlan Ellison and getting his blessing on this and talking to him about what it should look like and stuff. And he was very supportive, and then according to his forward in this, just fell in love with it and thought it was like the best possible interpretation that it could be. And he seems to like graphic fiction and has worked in graphic fiction. It's drawn by J.K. Woodward, who I've also talked to before, and he did the Doctor Who Star Trek crossover, which he kind of had to rush, and I don't think his art is nearly as good as it is here.
And I know him from Pure Dave's Fallen Angel.
From Fallen Angel, yeah. And he took his time on this, and I think it looks really good.
I agree.
And this was just very much a labor of love, and they were trying to create the best possible adaptation of that script that was consumable and enjoyable, but is really interesting because nothing has changed from it despite the ways in which it, you know, contradicts Star Trek canon and that kind of thing. So it is very much, I guess, kind of like its own standalone piece now. Like it can only exist in a world where Star Trek, even before and especially after it, does not exist the way it does.
It should be noted that what you're seeing here, much like, I guess, the Star Wars in a certain way, you're not looking at what would have been made on television, even if they had stayed to Harlan Ellison's. This
more
is
to the course, because he wrote it when there wasn't even really a serious Bible yet.
Yeah, he wrote it really early, and the episode ended up getting made for the back half of the show. Things about this would have been changed.
The back half of the first season.
Yeah, the back half of the first season, sorry. Things about this would have been changed had it been made, even if it was staying true to the script. Small details about the Vulcans and stuff like that, and yeah.
So, do you think that the episode is as inferior to this original script as Ellison and a lot of other people think that it is? Is it like kind of a travesty that it was made the way it was, even though it's considered like, I think it's a testament to the concept of the episode, and especially I'm sorry, I did that thing where I ask you a question and then I keep talking. But I think it's a testament to just the idea and the kind of humanity of the end of it, and the tragedy of Kirk having to let someone die that he cares about to save the future. That it's considered one of, and for a lot of people, the best episode of TOS, even though it's so much is changed from this. I think that's really interesting.
This is a superior version, and the main reason this is the superior version is there are so many things in the episode that I have to give passes to and be like, well, it's 60s TV, science fiction is much newer then. These are far more newer concepts. They probably didn't think about all the repercussions. And then I read this and I was like, oh no, it's just watered down. Every complaint I have about that episode is addressed here, especially time travel wise.
Yeah.
Everything's thought about. Everything makes more sense in this.
Things like, why don't they just take her out of the timeline and bring her back with them?
It makes the actual episode feel childish in comparison to, like, it has nothing to do with it being 60s television. It has everything to do with, like, watering down
compromises. That probably shouldn't be made.
Yeah. It's the dumber of the two. Not being mean, but, like, this is more like full-blown science fiction that really is thinking about what it's doing. I also think the character stuff works better.
I didn't go back and read the behind-the-scenes material about the actual episode before recording this. I will go back and do that.
In the 50-year mission?
With that and These Are the Voyages, that the books that have I told you about that? The big archive books that they go back and find like a whole bunch of notes and memos and things, and
cool.
It's just the most thorough history of TOS.
Oh, awesome!
We never thought we'd get. There's a lot that came out in that we didn't know before, like you wouldn't have Star Trek if it wasn't for Lucille Ball and things like that.
That's where we find out that like most of
I got a review copy.
Vulcans are created by most of the Vulcan stuff was created by.
Oh no, we've known that.
Okay.
We've known that for years.
I thought there was something about like a memo,
but
or
things like
written by him.
No, you're thinking of I Am Not Spock. He has one there, but there's some memos about that also in that book.
Okay.
But things like it wasn't really the letter campaign that saved Star Trek, like everybody always talks about. Like there's just a lot of new things that came to light in that. But anyway, I'm sure there are, because I was about to say there are things I don't know. Or things we don't know. We probably do know some of the stuff that I would like to know about that. Like, what were exactly the reasons that a lot of things in that script needed to be changed? Besides just the guy on drugs at the beginning that gets the ball rolling. Like that, it seems pretty obvious maybe why that was changed. Like maybe that was just a little bit too much for TV right then. But I'm thinking.
Oh, the idea of sound drugs. That's a really fun idea.
Yeah, that seemed very Doctor Who-y to me.
Yeah.
But,
or Douglas Adamsy.
But I wonder if some things are changed. I'm sure because they just didn't think that they had the budget and the way to make it look good. But I wonder if Roddenberry wasn't looking at the script and thinking like people are gonna be bored when or even execs like people are gonna be bored when the Guardians just keep talking and talking and talking and stuff like that.
But I'm not like I don't immediately want to poke fun of them like I do in the TV show. Like there's so many things with the Guardians where I just want to make fun of them. Because
the Guardian in that. In this, it's floating heads and crystals. It's very Superman.
Superman the motion picture, the movie.
It's very the council or Jor-El, I guess.
Like just the way it's presented in the actual episode. Like I want people to like do things and like because the Guardian can't do anything because he's got no arms or legs. Just like, hey, stop that! Like just the glowing like. I don't have that with this. Like, it feels more genuinely epic and cosmic.
It's one of those things where, and we get this with movies a lot, and it's very, where things are very relative, where there are things I wouldn't question as much until I look at this, where I'm like, oh, that's what it could have been, okay, where it just feels, like, representative of things that were in the script. For instance, I mean, it's always kind of bothered me, but it bothers me more now because I know that it was, that we actually thought about it. Like you said, there were things where I thought maybe there were just logic leaps where, because we haven't done a lot of this kind of stuff on television, nobody's thinking about it. Like, you walk up in the TV show to the Guardian, and he's just showing you pictures of your planet.
They specifically asked for it.
They specifically asked for it, and
why was that changed?
He can give you time, like maybe just for time, you know.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure there were a lot of things that were just cut for pacing, where it's like, well, this is boring exposition. We don't need it. No, you do. You need that.
And
the rules of the time travel, and Edith Keeler as a fixed point in time. Yeah.
And there's things where it's like. The Guardians are so silly because, or the Guardian is so silly because it's very much that, like, well, you couldn't possibly understand, like, on your human level. That sells so much better here when they're actually explaining things and not just like, don't worry about that, like, you just don't know, you primitives. Like, there's a couple of points here where I buy it, where it's like, well, you just perceive time differently.
Yeah.
And I think that's, like, it all works better
just says,
here.
Like, cryptic, generic things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here it's more specific, and it's only, and it feels like it's only cryptic when it doesn't know how else to, give us information.
Don't think about that. Don't pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yeah, the Guardian of Forever is the prophets in Deep Space Nine. Yeah,
I haven't gotten there, so I don't know.
No. From the pilot, we're like, they don't understand linear time, but how do they not understand? You know what I mean? Where they say generic things because it sounds like. Like weird and ethereal. And
now the most important thing that this answers that I asked you while we were watching the episode is what is the city? And
I have a read on it now in the actual episode. Which is it just San Francisco? Is San Francisco
that was my question. I was like, is it that city? Because it's arbitrarily picked.
Yeah,
there's no reason for it. And then when we look at this, there is a city that.
And the title is living. Yeah, the title is in the episode.
It's a city on the edge of forever.
It's in the script. It's a city on the edge of forever.
Yep.
Which would have been a really cool matte painting, and I wish we'd gotten it.
Yeah.
Now having said that,
that'd be great if they digitally remastered it and just got rid of the Guardian and made it the Guardians.
We don't do anything with the city itself.
No.
That's hilarious. That in the remasters, you go back and you like get
you
new
put
people
in the Guardians
to voice over it. Yeah, that would be hilarious. Why is City 20 minutes longer now? That's great. And then they get rid of the thing where the ship has disappeared. They beam back up, and it's like hooligans on the ship, pirates on the ship. Yeah,
that felt.
It was really neat, and I wasn't expecting it, but it doesn't make any sense.
The pirates?
Yeah,
that they're exactly right there.
That they're in the same spaceship,
yeah,
and that somehow it got there at the same time.
And also,
it's the mirror universe problem, right? Where just because it's the mirror universe, the ship is in the exact same place at the same time. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
And you know TOS far better than I do, having only seen a handful of episodes. They don't look like they would exist in that universe, right? Like they look Star Wars to me. They didn't look Star Trek.
I don't agree with that. Okay. They were very cagey.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There's early stuff where you get things like no, they look like what I would expect like a barbarian original series to be. Yeah. I thought that was a fun idea, but I didn't. And like, how are they spacefaring?
And that's the first thing you would cut, right? Like if you were trimming the script for an episode, that's the first. But
it was cool to get to see it.
It was cool to get to see it.
So let's talk about Edith Keeler. she talks less in this and is immediately way more interesting on page 1.
And I buy the relationship way more.
You get it over like 3 or 4 like just a couple of pages, and it's just snapshots of it. Like I think that's really cool. It's weird that it feels like the TV show now is almost playing like this script's greatest hits, but the script itself is stretched over a lot of time where we just keep checking in with the important things. Like we just every scene matters.
Mm-hmm.
That's not exactly true in City. Like in this, every scene matters, and we just check into the parts where we need to know things, or where dramatic things happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it happens over a period of several weeks. That doesn't always work on television, but I think it works really good in this.
I
really well in this.
And I think one of the things that makes her work better is that she's not the focal point of like the entire universe in the way she is. Like they just so happen to go to the place where she works when they're hiding out, and she gives them a job. In this, it's a different character. Everything does not revolve around her. They're just kind of eventually drawn to her.
And we just speculate as to what exactly would happen to the world.
Mm-hmm.
So like the idea that the Germans would make the bomb first, and
which is the idea presented in the episode as made, is this is what happens if she doesn't die.
Yeah, Spock has to fix his tricorder in the episode and get like microfiche to look at basically to look at newspapers and find out exactly what's going to happen. In this, it's just speculative, and I don't know why I kind of like that better.
And it's one of 2 or 3 possible. Yeah, no, because it feels smarter.
Yeah.
And there's something else I was gonna. Oh, and she doesn't predict the entire Star Trek future.
Well, yeah, which is just silly.
She's just an idealist. She's not clairvoyant.
Yeah, and I like that she more subtly lines up with what the more utopian like future is going to be. It's almost like we had too much Star Trek already when we made City.
Mm-hmm.
In a way.
Well, and I also love the explanation for why is Kirk in love with her?
Yeah.
And that like he's basically spent a life having flings. And this is the first time he's ever like really spent an extended amount of time with a woman, and has like really come to like really be in love with this person. I think that's such an interesting idea for, and really like ahead of its time. Like, it was already deconstructing the, like, Playboy adventurer that moves from girl to girl before we even, that became, like, a massive trope.
We like to think of Kirk as the archetype, but that archetype predates Kirk, obviously.
Yeah, no, it's already deconstructing that, like, in the 60s, and I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, I might be reading too much into it, but I like to think that part of why he falls in love with her specifically, because I mean, it's silly if it's just he spent a lot of time with her, right? Like, I think her personality specifically, it's that they line up ideologically, but also I think like seeing a diamond in the rough where he sees what Spock is calling like this horrible land of barbarians, and he sees the hope for the future that leads to the future they have. That like
people
represented
like this
in
that get
her.
us to where we are.
It's like he probably and again, this isn't maybe exactly in the book, but I imagine that it's like he appreciates her more because he sees her out of the context of a world where more people seem to be like that.
It's just it just plays a lot better.
So he admires her because
even though she's in less of it.
Even if she wasn't a pioneer, it's people like her that lead us there. And she's just again with just what little we get of her, like she seems really endearing, and she seems you know sweet, like somebody you would want to spend time with.
The one complaint I'll have at this as a production,
absolutely.
is sometimes a little hard to track what's happening.
I have that too.
And
you mean panel for panel? You mean like action stuff?
Yes, and my biggest one is this here, which is they're really close to each other. There's nothing on this previous page. Like they're here. They're really close to each other, and she says, "What you say is true." They're talking about the future. He goes, "Ouch! It's my own fault." What is he holding? What is happening?
Yep, I had that
from
too.
that panel to this panel.
I have no idea.
You always get them stretched. What? I don't understand. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I had that too.
Is that his foot? Is his foot hurting? Is that what's happening? It looks like a rock.
Oh, now that yes, that is what it is. He's picking his foot. Honestly, the panel layout is the problem. You don't do that in vertical strips.
Yeah, I don't. There's only it's not like egregious, but there are a couple of places where I was like, I don't know what's happening. And when you told me that, and I was like, okay, maybe there's like some action sequences. No, it's just
There's a couple places where it is, but
yeah. And so.
But I do think overall Woodward is the right guy for this because the photorealistic faces I think really fit for this material.
Yes, absolutely.
I love this stuff.
No, it's great.
Just
it's
where
great.
you have like he makes exposition fun to look at. You know, where you got these 2 pages of just black, and you've got these really emotive faces, and it's the way to do that. You know, your typical artist would just give you your standard 4 or 6 boxes.
Yes.
And almost like, you know, George Lucas over the shoulder shots. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He says this and he says this.
Yes.
I don't know. This is just a lot more interesting to look at.
And there's a couple of places where like it does things I don't think we could possibly do on a TV budget. Where like the universe like this. Like I don't know what this looks like on a 60s TV budget.
But in its way, it looks really TOS too. I mean, like that kind of wild, like drug trippy stuff. There's a thing like that toward the beginning too. Like I don't know exactly what it would have looked like
when the guy takes the drugs.
Yeah,
his head like goes like whoa.
So no, you're right. Like it wouldn't look like that, but we would flash a lot of lights and we'd do a lot of quick cutting, and like I know what that would look like in TOS, and it would feel silly compared to that, but at the time it would have been creepy and trippy and stuff. It would have been Dagger of the Mind. That's what it would have been.
But my version is a tad larger than yours as well.
Oh, interesting.
But yeah, no, totally worth reading.
We should also mention that the point of it is quite different. Like
the moral.
Yeah,
kind of, the underlying.
The end of it is no matter how bad somebody is, there's still good in them, and the bad guy who goes back in time, who's just out for himself and you know on drugs and stuff, he ends up trying to save her. And
because she still steps in front of a car, like in the episode.
Really, no good reason except
just like natural human instinct. Like it's like, oh no, that person needs help.
Yeah, and so it's trying to be optimistic about even the worst of us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like how like the one thing I do prefer about the TV version is the way like Kirk trying to save her is handled, because he doesn't really at all in this. It's just Spock runs off and he just stands there. I much prefer.
He does close his eyes. That's still there.
I much prefer his. Okay. That's another thing that's a little bit hard to track. I'm not sure why he's doing that here. Mm-hmm. Like you almost need the episode.
Yeah,
I'm
inferring from the episode.
Problematic. I much prefer his holding McCoy back in the episode.
It's far more powerful in the episode.
Yeah. McCoy's not in this at all. We should mention.
No. And you said that makes sense with.
I'm not totally sure that character existed when he wrote the script,
mm-hmm.
but I don't know exactly how early he wrote it. Mm-hmm. So that's information I should look into. But anyway, all right, let's move on. To our Star Wars thing, we looked at the first volume of Star Wars Legacy, which you've read all of.
It is my favorite Star Wars thing,
and it's very quickly becoming mine, having just read one volume of it. I feel this is very much my speed. I feel like, and it's weird that I'm saying that because it's a real dark and heavy kind of thing. It's not the lighthearted adventure stuff that I usually go for Star Wars, but then that's there too.
Yeah, no, it's like the most Star Wars thing. Like it has everything. If you like stuff from the prequels, it's got stuff from the prequels. If you like the original trilogy, it's got the fun adventure.
That was one of the things I was really impressed with it about, is that I felt like it was a perfect blend of both eras, mm-hmm. in going 100-something years in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So Eric, when did you start reading this? Like was it well after it was already over, or did you start with it when it was coming out?
I think it was when it was over. I had like a tax refund and I bought all of it.
Oh, really? I bet it binge reads really well.
It binge reads really well.
Like immediately after I finished this, I just wanted to go to the next one. I was like, why are we only covering volume 1? Can we read more of this? And I just didn't have time this last week, but I don't know how much of it we'll review, but like I've got to start reading the rest of it.
Yeah.
And while I say fresh in my mind, it's been a week. Like I said, I'm going to need your help a little bit in recapping this, but
well, it was just so like, because this was kind of my real first experience with John Ostrander on Star Wars. I'd read a little bit of the Quinlan Vos stuff, and I've now read all of it. I've got that stuff, too, which is what he does during the Clone Wars. He has a character that he goes...
Okay. I was going to ask you what era that was.
And then after this, he goes the opposite way, and he goes to the Dawn of the Jedi. And throughout it, he and I are interested in the same thing of Star Wars. He's really interested in the Jedi and the Sith. He's really interested in the light side and dark side, and where the line is between those two things. Like, he just kind of keeps repeating himself, but exploring it in different ways.
It's interesting. I can't think of a lot of writers who have written in so many different eras of something.
Yeah, yeah.
Who it sounds like he got to sort of almost be like a major architect.
And now it's all gone.
For the history of it. Yeah, that's really sad.
Yeah, and so especially the Dawn of the Jedi stuff, because that was like the first time we'd ever gone back that far, and they didn't get to finish it, and then it just doesn't count. And it's really hard to get your hands on that, and I only have the first volume. I need...
At least Star Wars has a leg up on Star Trek where I understand what's canon and what's not. At least it has that. At least I know for sure that the original trilogy is standing and will never fall. Like at least I can be sure about that.
But the one thing I can gripe about with Legacy as a whole is, and it's a holdover from the prequels, is I do think there are too many lightsabers. Like, everyone has lightsabers.
I wondered about that. Although he makes good cases for even people who don't have force powers getting lightsabers.
Yeah, he does, but like there's a point, like, I do think that the lightsaber is a little bit more powerful when it's not seen all the time, but like everyone has a lightsaber. The entire Empire, all the knights have lightsabers.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point.
And so like it kind of like I don't know, importantizes the lightsaber. Like, it's just a tool, like it is in the prequels, where it's just like everyone's got lightsabers.
Yeah.
Although it feels even more so this way, because like if it would be like if Padme also had a lightsaber and Jar Jar had a lightsaber, like everyone has a lightsaber except for Sin and Blue.
Well, it's just it's a good multi-tool. It has a lot of different functions. You can do a lot of things with a lightsaber.
It's true. You can cut through doors.
But yeah, we do. I mean, I've always said that you start to kind of lose a little bit of the mystique and mystery of the of the Jedi stuff when you have too many lightsabers flying around.
Mm-hmm. And I think this has some of that, but it's so interested in exploring those ideas. Like, maybe it's not important that it's mysterious, because we're really getting into what all that means.
Well, that's a good point too. Yeah. Well, I guess I'm trying to think of the right way. I guess it just feels a little bit less like wrapped in tradition and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it's so ornamental.
Well, and it's such a different universe at this point.
Yeah.
That like the tradition's kind of dead.
Well, that's a good point too. Yeah, of course. It's funny. I had a hard time not comparing. I mean, these are very, very different things, but I had a hard time not comparing this to Frey while I was reading it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Just because it's, in a lot of ways, it's what I wanted that to be. Just in that it's not just origin, and yeah, I mean, obviously, like, it's not just origin and it keeps going. But even if this was all we got, we told like a real interesting, complex story. It's not finished. You know what I mean? So like, it's kind of unfair to compare them, but just in that it's like in the future of something, and it's a real oppressive post-apocalyptic kind of thing. Although Star Wars is kind of always that way, except for Republic.
Yeah.
But I just this handles, and it's weird because it's not like modern future. It's not urban future. It's the past and fantasy, but it's one of the better, like, jump way ahead, and has sort of a cyberpunk-esque aesthetic.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's fair to say.
Yeah, no, it a starpunk, you could call it.
Yeah, it's definitely looking at future-y things, right?
Yeah.
Things that were one thing and they became something else when we jumped ahead.
It's a darker and grimier future, but Star Wars starts as the movie that's dirty, where like George Lucas stopped people from cleaning things because everything needs to look dirty. This is the future of that idea.
That's a great point.
As opposed to the prequels, where everything's shiny and nice.
Who is the character that you most latched onto immediately in this? So we have a pretty big cast here.
I mean, it's Cade.
Yes, is it?
Cade's the one I most latch onto, just because, given that this is my first like real Ostrander stuff, like immediately he's dealing with like dark side and light side and what it all means, and he's healing people, but with the dark side, and therefore that's bad.
Yeah.
And he's just a really interesting character, and he's down his luck, and he hates himself, and he's doing drugs.
I mean, this is only 10 years old, but since then, this obviously we've done a whole lot of, and it seems like we're probably going to be doing this in the new movies too, of like shades of gray and what is in between the light side and the dark side. But it doesn't feel been there, done that when I read it here.
No,
even though I've seen it recently,
and
like we keep exploring that in modern Star Wars stuff, but I feel like I'm able to very easily put myself back in this period and imagine I've never seen this before.
Well, I think the setting helps a lot, where it is a Sith-run galaxy,
yeah,
and there aren't really Jedi, and the idea of like almost like the rules are gone now.
That's right.
Like I was taught as a kid that I should go with the light side, but why? Like, why does it even matter now? Like, there's no one.
Everyone loses perspective because they've lived in this empire for so long.
Yeah.
That they don't really understand the notion of democracy and freedom, and you have a lot of characters in this that believe in the Empire that are not bad. They're not evil.
No, the Empire's not a bad force in this book.
I mean, like, inherently, it's not what we want. I mean, I think Ostrander does a really good job of keeping the of keeping our perspective with the politics, where like this isn't what we want. You know, you do like even if the guy running things is benevolent, and we have sort of a benevolent dictator in this, like even if that guy is benevolent, it's still an oppressive society. It's still a dictator.
For those that don't know what this is a Star Wars where there are two sides to a war that are both the bad guys.
It's really cool.
So at the beginning of the story, the Empire finally makes its big comeback. And to do that, they ally themselves with essentially an army of Sith. And then, right after they win and take over the Republic, the Sith take them over and, like, stage a coup immediately. And so you have the Sith running the entire galaxy, but then you have remnants of the Empire and people that are loyal to the Emperor who are fighting against them. And then this story isn't actually about all of that. It's about the people kind of in between the cracks of that war. It's not the people in the rebellion fighting back against the Empire. It's kind of a bad force, and then smuggler. You like,
and see, when you describe it like that, it sounds like it must be like really dark and heavy and broody and no fun at all. And it's
so
not,
much fun.
It's not that.
No,
it's really surprising. I mean, like our main character in this is a guy, I guess, kind of running from his destiny, who is, you know, obviously supposed to be a Jedi and was a Jedi, and had a tragedy that made him go a different way. And this is all coming back to me as we're talking about it. And you have your main, you have your Skywalker, your main Jedi character in this, who is also a bounty hunter. We put those two things together.
Yeah, it's like. And you know exactly where that comes from, right? Like, it's like, what if Luke Skywalker and Han Solo were the same character? Like, that's what it is. But he's...
See, you're absolutely right, and even we look him in the face, that's what he is.
Yeah.
But it's also sort of, what would the midpoint of Anakin and Luke be?
Yeah.
It's also that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, but if bad things lead to good things, can we control ourselves enough to use them for the right reason and not be taken over by them? So this has that very... I bet Joss Whedon, if he's read it, loves this, because this has that Whedon thing about how it's bad to resurrect people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it's unnatural. The Force doesn't want that.
He uses the dark side to resurrect someone, and it's what we were talking about in Revenge of the Sith. Where it's like the dark side can be used even to raise the dead, that Darth Plagueis thing.
Or just stop them from dying. He does that too.
Yeah.
It looks real painful. The way
when he brings someone to life, it's a little bit ambiguous as to whether or not that person actually died or if they were just right on cusp.
I think it's
who was it
that
he brought back? I can't remember now.
In the beginning, it's his master, and
that's
then
what I thought. I was
going
to say it was his mentor, but I couldn't remember.
Princess,
right? Who again is the princess in an empire and is very interesting and likable, and
and is not Leia like at all.
Right.
Like, she's very much her own character.
And she's an action hero.
Like, it's so interesting that I think you could
Would
sell
you agree
this.
with that? Like, she does action stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like,
no, absolutely.
Everybody kind of kicks ass in this.
Yeah. I think you could sell this, and it sounds like it's just the Star Wars. It could sound like it's just Star Wars again, but it isn't.
Yeah.
It's so much more interesting and complex than that. And I feel like that's what we could have done with a new movie, is like...
Yeah.
It's what Force Awakens should have been, where it's like, yeah, you can kind of, if you step back, you can kind of see how it's, the first Star Wars, But it's not really that at all.
Even though this doesn't technically count anymore, I'm just glad that it exists. Like I'm not bogged down by all that when I'm reading it. Maybe you are, because you know it sucks that the EU is gone.
Yeah.
But like but again, with my favorite franchise is in such a weird limbo right now too, that I kind of have to enjoy things within whatever continuity they're living in right now, and I can't really think too much about
and thankfully this is
what counts at the moment.
Because I have all the Dark Horse trades, but Marvel has started putting this out in the Epic collections.
Oh, that's awesome.
So you can still get your hands on this. It's not. There are a couple, like Dawn of the Jedi is really hard to get a hold of because it's out of print and Star Wars hasn't played. Or
I mean, I said I wasn't bogged down by it. I was really saddened reading the beginning of this, going, "Oh, this is so much more interesting than the future you would have of what we have right now." Like, I really need Luke Skywalker to like run a new set of Jedi, and for that to expand and be a thing. And it's really sad that we didn't do that.
And he's such like a. Like when Luke Skywalker shows up, even if you haven't read any other EU stuff, you know that he just has a presence of like
he comes back.
He
as
was a
Force
great
Ghost.
Jedi.
That is my favorite scene in this. It's incredibly well written.
Yeah.
And he reads. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
When he comes back as a Force Ghost, he comes back to Cade and he's trying to mentor him, and Cade's kind of having nothing of it. And
I love that he uses drugs to keep the Force Ghosts away.
I love that they made death sticks cool and not stupid, and like that's amazing.
I still don't know how he uses them. I don't know if he drinks them, if he injects them. We still never see that.
Maybe it's like sound gyms in City. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's a sound thing.
Yeah. But you know, I
didn't think we'd find parallels between these two things, but there are.
I love that he's going to be like drug addicted, and it's like, okay, well, what do we got? Death sticks? Yeah, we'll just have him take death sticks. And that he uses them to keep the Force like away. It keeps him disconnected from the Force, and I love that idea that like,
this literal fighting your destiny thing.
Yeah, but that it also disconnects you from the universe, like because your perception is altered and you're not in your right mind, and so the universe isn't like connecting with you. I really like that.
And he kind of has a death wish.
Yes, no, he totally has a death wish.
I don't know if he still does by the end, but he certainly does through this.
He kind of ebbs and flows.
I really like female Darth Maul.
Yes, Darth Talon.
Darth Talon, yeah, she's really interesting. Immediately, like Ostrander is really good at introducing us to characters and immediately making us fascinated by them and wanting to see them come back again. He doesn't do the thing where you just like put pins in things, where you bring someone in and you're like, okay, this is a character, file it away. He brings someone in and immediately gives you a sense of their worldview, and so you care what happens to them later.
Yeah, because her opening scene is her becoming a Sith. And Darth Crate's there. Darth Crate is the big emperor of the universe.
And he right away says, "Kill your mentor."
Yeah. And then she does, without even thinking.
Without even thinking.
Yeah.
And that tells you everything you need to know, you know right now about her, and she's completely indoctrinated. And like we come up with really good reasons that she's kind of little spoken like Darth Maul, although she talks. I mean, she has dialogue, but and she's a super good, neat design.
Yes.
Now I don't know if she is a product of the Darth Maul race and the race of the guys with the tentacle head, or if she's of that race with the tentacle head and then they just put tattoos on her head.
So here's what happens, because we've changed continuity. This is all the Clone Wars TV show's fault. Clone Wars made Darth Maul a race, and like all of his race looks like that. So like
but before it was just drawn on, right?
Yeah, his brother looks like him, but he's yellow, but he's got like the tattoos are like natural. Prior to that, those are Sith tattoos, and it's something we do to people. So she's just a Twi'lek, but she has the tattoos of like Darth Maul.
Okay.
But we later changed it to be that's just what that race looks like.
Oh.
But when this is made, that's a Sith thing.
Because she doesn't have horns.
Nope. She's.
Because I thought maybe she was both species, because I didn't know that. I didn't know they weren't born that way. It's always weird when you're born looking like you have a whole bunch of tattoos. Like, it's kind of hard to. She's a Twi'lek, which the previous thing that although to be fair, there are obviously a lot of animals in nature that have that.
That's true.
So
tigers.
It's not like you can't. Yeah. And like lizard species.
Yeah. The previous thing that
frogs.
Yes. The previous thing that Ostrander and Dursuma worked on before this, they had a Twi'lek character. I get the impression that one of them likes Twi'leks, and I think it's Jan Dursuma, because one of the really interesting things about this is that it's drawn by a woman, and like she likes to draw sexy women.
Yeah.
The blue is a Zeltron, which are basically Orion not slave girls. Like they are the sexy.
I'm learning so much.
They are the sexy race of the Star Wars galaxy, but they're not slaves. Like they're the promiscuous race.
Yeah.
And they're the super hot race, and I think Jan Dursman just likes drawing gorgeous women.
They just use that for their own ends.
Mm-hmm. And I love Blue. I think Blue's immediately like one of the most fascinating like love interest kind of characters. Like how much she will take and forgive, because she likes this guy, and how much she won't. And even when she gets to the point of like this is too far, it's still, like it's not like a line where like once this happens, I'll never speak to you again. Like she's still rooting for him. She sees in him what he can be. And I think she's just a really interesting character.
We should move on, but I can't wait to read more of this.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. I should also mention that, I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff we could talk about with this, but long show, we need to move on. But one of the things that struck me most about it is just Ostrander's consistent command of dialogue, and there's a lot of just really sharp-edged and like witty lines of dialogue. He's got a good voice for everybody, but he just he just has a lot of really memorable lines of dialogue.
I also like how he uses a lot of slang from the prequels and makes it just feel like underworld slang. Like I really like that. Like he didn't have to invent stuff. Yeah, it sounds so much better than the prequels.
Nerf Herder is in here.
There's some Sebulba stuff. What is it? It's the it's slang that we got on Tatooine. I can't remember what it is, but it sounds like just a natural like made up slang, as opposed to in the prequels, where it feels like awkward and like we're just saying things.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's obviously written by somebody who really has an affinity for that material and is a big fan of it, but it doesn't read fanficky.
Mm-hmm. No, it feels so like well constructed, orchestrated, and
or if it is, it's fanficky in the right way.
Yeah, it's the best kind of thing.
It is very much that, like, you never thought you'd see this in Star Wars, but we integrate it and make it Star Wars. It's such a bold piece. I really, really like it.
Yeah.
I imagine just reading one volume of that. I imagine looking at that as kind of my Star Wars. I don't know if that will happen.
And that's kind of how I see it. Like outside the original trilogy, this is my favorite Star Wars thing.
It's really good. And you said that structurally it gets really interesting because there's a lot of like kind of one shots that give you character background, but they all matter, and you're glad you had them.
Yeah, every single character in this series gets completely fleshed out, and it both works as a piece and also as like an ongoing comic. Like there's a point where like Crate kind of gets taken off the board. Like I'm not gonna say he dies, but like you have a long stretch in just a different status quo.
Oh, interesting.
Where like it keeps moving pieces.
The Sith in this, again, we didn't talk about this much, but like getting away from the Rule of Two and everything, that's all really interesting.
I love all the Sith guys showing up and being like, "We hate you. You're dumb."
Yes, that was awesome. Maybe I go to this too often, but this should have been an animated series, right?
Absolutely. This absolutely should have been an animated series. It's really unfortunate that it didn't get adapted into anything.
And like now, you know, if wishes were horses, like hard PG-13 on Netflix.
If Disney's doing a streaming service, it would be really cool if they did this and like had like a Star Wars Legends, like.
Oh, that's interesting. Because we have two ongoing continuity.
Because one of my biggest problems with the Legends line is, okay, can we get some more? Like, you've now branded it. Give me a couple books a year in the Legends line.
Well, the only reason we branded it is so that people would know it wasn't canon.
But
Legends means not. They could have just stamped it not canon.
But I'd like some new Legend stuff. Like, we have a line for it.
But I'm with you. That would be really cool.
Like, I don't think this couldn't get made as long as they throw Star Wars Legends. I don't think this could still not get made if
I agree with that.
Star Wars Legends on it.
Would you like to talk about Aquaman?
Yes. So I'm in kind of an Aquaman mood, and I had the first two trades of the Jeff Johns run, and I haven't read these since they came out. And like I realized that as I was reading them, I was like, oh god, like I keep having this. Where I'm like, New 52 was 5 years ago.
Yeah, 6.
I read this like right when I read the first volume right when it came out.
We're almost 2 years in Rebirth now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were in our second year of Rebirth.
You had that weird year at the end of 52 where it was 52, but it wasn't 52. I mean, like, it's more like 6 or 7 years now.
Yeah. So I finally, so I went back to this, and it was just really interesting. I was just like, it's interesting how much of this stuck with me and how much of it didn't. Well,
yeah.
More of this didn't, and I don't know why, because I think
this nondescript Aquaman.
Oh yeah,
hardcover.
It's the hardcover because I take the.
He takes all the. Oh, it doesn't have a logo on the front. I thought
Yeah.
it was just didn't have anything.
No.
Do you have anything like that? Where
Right.
like when you take the dust jacket off, there's nothing on the.
Yes,
Cover
but there's
at
always
all?
something on the spine.
Okay.
Otherwise, it would be impossible.
Yeah.
But so I realized I hadn't read these, and like this stuck with me a lot more than this one did, and that's interesting because I like this one better, having reread them. So the first one, you read this story way back in the day.
Yeah.
With all the.
I've read it a couple times. Yeah. The Trench.
I realized going back to this, I have the same issue with it that I had it when I first read it, which is I feel like I'm missing things, and I shouldn't because it's the beginning of the New 52. So I did some research.
Yeah.
I am missing things. His Aquaman run doesn't start here. His Aquaman run starts in Brightest Day.
Yeah,
There's so
that's
much
true.
stuff that, like, in this book, I'm like, what am I missing?
You know what? I took it for granted because I read Brightest Day. I bought
And
that
I
when it was
didn't.
coming
And
out,
now
yeah.
I'm like, oh, I need to go back and read Brightest
And
Day
I
because he's doing a
loved
bunch
that
of
book until Swamp Thing. When it looked like I was just reading a weekly book for an entire year just to get to Swamp Thing.
But this is the.
We should review that. I would enjoy going back to that.
Yeah, sure. I really want to read that. Reading this just to kind of get
We'll
some
put
of that
that on
backstory.
the docket at some point.
Okay, and it's only 24. It's not the full 52.
Well, you're right. It was every other week, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it was a semi-monthly
Yeah.
book. That's right.
So the first Aquaman is very concerned with dealing with Aquaman as a joke.
Yes.
Like that was the big thing when this came out was we all know you think Aquaman's a joke. Now, I'm not sure how much I love that take of like I much prefer the Peter David model of just like, well, just make it cool. If you make it cool, people will stop saying that.
Yeah.
But
It's sort of like you don't have to tell us you have a strong female character. Just make it. Just make her a strong female character. Yeah.
But there's some really funny stuff with that, like it does work as comedy in the book.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's
Well, the scene that jumps out to me, and it's funny because I have argued about this with people. People either love this or they hate it. It's a very love-hate kind of book.
yes.
And by the way, I didn't reread these. I'm not reviewing this. I'm just gonna say this one quick
Talking about his own
anecdote,
experience.
or this one thing, which is I liked the bit where he walks into a restaurant and he orders fish. I think that's hilarious.
Yeah. I also really love this. This is the first time I ever really got Mira, really loved Mira, because
Same here.
every time I've ever read Mira prior to this, she's a crazy person. Because their son is murdered, and she just goes crazy, and she's crazy for most of Peter David's run, and she's just a crazy. That's what I knew Mira as, was a crazy person. And here, the last issue of this volume is she goes to town for some food, for some dog food, because they have a dog that can't swim, which is a little too cutesy maybe. But she goes get dog food, and there's this guy who's really aggressively touching her and stuff, and it's not okay, and it escalates, and she just starts taking water out of him because she controls water, and she's just like, okay, you are now at the level where you haven't had water for a day. I'm gonna make it a week, and then I'm gonna make it a month, and then you're gonna be dead. And I'm like, oh, she's insanely powerful. Oh man, Mira's awesome. So going back to this, I was really oh yeah, this is quite good, and I don't know why I didn't finish it, because his run only runs 4 volumes. It's ridiculous. I only have the first 2, and I wanna finish it. The second one is The Others, which is weird because there is a book.
Okay, see, I know I read at least the first couple issues of
There's
this.
a book called Aquaman and the Others. There was a spin-off book. And I don't know how that book got made, because most of the others are dead by the end of this book.
I read some of that. It was boring.
That book?
That book.
Because that was, what's his name?
I don't remember now.
The guy that's writing Superman. Not Tomasi.
Tomasi?
The other one. Dan Jurgens.
Jurgens.
Yeah,
oh,
Dan
was it
Jurgens.
Jurgens?
Yeah,
Really?
it was
Okay,
Dan
I didn't
Jurgens.
remember that.
And Black Man's awesome in The Others.
Yeah, he is.
I
remember that page. I remember that page.
So basically what we find out is that Aquaman had a team, and I really like it because they're not called The Others, which is part of what's dumb about Aquaman and the Others. He just says at one point, you're okay, what about the others? It's not a team name, and I think that's really funny.
Well, I mean, it sounds really funny because it's is Aquaman one of the others, or is it Aquaman and then some other people?
But what's interesting and what was weird when Jeff Johns left so quickly was that it
Sounds
feels
like a doo-wop band, right?
Yeah. Arthur and the Others.
Arthur and the other, yeah.
But it's a lot of history that never existed, which is maybe him taking advantage of the New 52 kind of a thing, where like, okay, I don't have to like super adhere to the continuity kind of a thing. But basically, before he met Mira, before most Aquaman, before any Aquaman stories, he was teamed up with these other people, and we also kind of informed the origin of Aquaman, like at the same time. The Black Mana thing is great, because Black Mana, so there's a scientist that Arthur's father brought him to kind of help him learn about his powers, and that guy's obsessed with Atlantis, and like just keeps trying to get Arthur to tell him where Atlantis is, even before he's ever been there. He's like, tell me about the secrets of Atlantis. And he's in that book too, where he goes to him, he's like, can you finally tell me about Atlantis? So he hires that scientist, this is in the past, that scientist hires Black Mana to go after Aquaman. And when he attacks Aquaman, Arthur's father has a heart attack. And like in his grief, he blames Black Mana. And the scientist is telling Mira the story, and she goes, oh, so Black Mana killed Arthur's father, and he's like, no, Arthur killed his father.
Yeah.
And then Aquaman goes and kills his dad.
It's coming back to me now. Yeah.
And I was like, that's such a great twist. I think the others are kind of interesting in the idea of introducing a cast you're going to kill off. I don't want to read a whole book about them.
Yeah.
But it's...
I can't remember if he just replaced them with others.
That must be what... There must be like,
I just can't remember now.
twos for all of them. But when I'd read this... originally, I remember...
a flashback book?
That's possible.
I think it actually might have taken place earlier.
Okay.
I think maybe that's what it was.
Okay.
And it was like filling in those adventures.
Okay, that's cool.
Maybe that's
that
what it was.
seems like a hard book to write, because one of the big things is...
I don't remember.
Like, how almost, like, radical they are. Like...
I'm going on 6-year-old memories here.
Yeah. Because that's a big thing with the others, is that they're like fanatics, almost. And the big resolution at the end of this is that Arthur's changed. And, like, he's worried he's still the guy he was when he was younger and more vengeful and more angry. And that he's changed. And the girl from the others who he had a thing with thinks that Mira ruined him. And there's this really great moment where they both look at each other and says, what have you done to Arthur? He's not acting like himself. Because they both kind of know two completely different guys. Because he's changed so much. And there's a lot of really cool stuff. And it's also, the things that we're doing with Black Mana is almost like in the best way possible, like a fetch questy kind of a thing, like almost like Indiana Jonesy, like we get to a big temple altar with all these mystic artifacts, and like
treasure
it's a real kind of all over the world adventure kind of a treasure hunting thing, while also murdering people, and I really liked it. I remember when I first read this, thinking it was kind of boring and confusing, and I'm like, who are all these characters? Why should I care?
There's flashbacks in it, but it still goes forward.
Okay. But I liked these quite a bit. I really do want to finish at least his run. I'd like to read... I found out Jeff Parker's the guy that follows him, and I love Jeff Parker.
It has these people on it.
Looks like all of them, but these two are dead, but they're in costumes, so they could probably get away with that. And I don't know who the girl is.
Yeah.
Not the bikini girl, she's in that. The younger girl.
Oh, okay.
That's great. She shows up, and, like, Mira clearly has this, like, who's this hoochie mama kind of a thing. Because she's dressed like who's the chick in Marvel, the one that hangs out with Kazar.
She-Ra.
She-Ra. No,
I think no.
No, that's He-Man. Sheena the She-Devil. She's just dressed like her, where like it's just like a bra and like kind of like a slight like skirt made out of animal cloth.
Like
and Mira's just like, who is this person? Why does she know my husband? No, it's really fun. If you missed those or haven't got back to them in a while, they hold up really well.
Are you gonna get the other ones?
I'd like to. I'd like to get 3 and 4, at least 3 and 4, and maybe try the Jeff Parker stuff.
I'm gonna mention a couple other things real quick. Let's see, what do I want to talk about? Silver Surfer ended a little while ago, and I didn't talk about that. I just now finally read that, and the last issue of this was, the best way I can put this is typically touching. Sounds weird, but
it's the way it's supposed to end.
It kind of, but also it didn't have the same impact in weight for me that a lot of these have. I think some of it might have just been, it's it's a hard thing to end because it's not exactly building to an ending because it's such a series of one and done stories, and so like it's very Doctor Who. It's as you know,
yes.
where you're just gallivanting around the universe and everything counts, and we call back to things and we build on stuff, but it's not like one big arc leading to the end of it either. And I don't know. It's I was kind of surprisingly nonplussed, honestly.
Interesting.
But it's I don't know. It's a fine ending. It's sappy in the right way. This book is always sappy in the right way. Where there's things where I should roll my eyes at it, but they're able to get it. You know, these guys, Slott and the Allreds, they can get away with it for whatever reason in this book. And anyway, I like as always, you know, I recommend going back and getting all of this. But
I'm
yeah,
sure they'll do an omnibus now that it's over.
I hope so, because it's weird the way it was released. That it's in a couple volumes and it should have never had a renumbering. And, you know, that's kind of unfortunate. But it's Silver Surfer kind of going back and like watching his own life from start to finish, which is kind of an interesting idea. And he's not just watching like a watcher, but like being a person throughout it and having to hang out in the background. And so he kind of tragically has to see his in-law blown up again, and himself have to work for Galactus, and then him eventually getting together with Dawn and knowing where that's all going to go. While we know that it ends sadly, and that they're not going to be able to stay together, but not exactly how. But it's a bittersweet thing because it's done, and I wish it was still going. Yeah, like if Silver Surfer had to not be with Dawn anymore, I wish we could keep the book going in some way, because I don't know that I'll ever see this aesthetic for Silver Surfer again.
No, the Allreds are done. They went over. They did the Bug at DC. I think they're doing something else at DC now.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, no, and I'm interested. I'm interested in reading the Bug because I really like the Bug for some reason. I don't know why. I just always have.
That's funny. And then I thought I should probably also weigh in real quick on Doomsday Clock. This came out just this last week, and I'll not spoil too much, but in case you haven't picked this up and you're not sure if you want to, if you're like Eric and you feel weird about the integrating Watchmen, and of course I feel weird about that too, and it's super commercial, super too commercial even for comics.
It just feels like artistically repugnant to me.
Yeah. And I get that, but being as big of a Watchmen fan as I am, there's also...
And you're a much bigger Watchmen fan than I
am.
am.
A little bit of giddiness I get from it if it's done effectively, and verdict is out on that a little bit, but I enjoyed this more than I thought I would. So, I guess all I want to say about it is Jeff Johns really knows Watchmen and has a pretty good handle on how to make this tonally feel like that book. Language is maybe a little off. I think it's really hard to recapture more if you're not more. I think that's really tough. I think it does better than some of the before Watchmen stuff that I read, but I didn't read all of it. I think he's got a pretty good voice for the second Rorschach. The nice thing there is it's a second one, so he's not going to talk exactly like the first one, but he tries to talk just like the first one. So I don't know if it's just this is what Jeff Johns' Rorschach sounds like, or if it's this is what this guy sounds like. And I think he's able to lean on that a little bit. But anyway, this is, at the beginning, an immediate sequel to Watchmen, where the society has fallen apart because Rorschach's journal got published, and now we're going to war and the whole world's falling apart, and the Doomsday Clock is like right at 12 o'clock now, and it's. So it's Rorschach going and breaking in old superhero or super villain. I'm not sure, somebody I hadn't heard of, but breaking this woman out of prison. No, I guess it was kind of a villain because she's married to this guy who's a villain, and they're in jail together, and she won't come with him if he doesn't also take this other guy, and so he takes them both, and we see Veidt in hiding and how he feels about everything, and there's this what I thought was kind of a goofy moment where Veidt's like, I don't know how I picked the name Ozymandias and the irony of that name never occurred to me until my whole world fell apart. That was really silly.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
So I read these two Aquaman books, which were written by Jeff Johns, and I read both of them, which is about 13 issues in maybe an hour.
Yeah.
Watchmen takes a long time to read.
Yeah.
Does this feel
It's wordy.
more wordy than Jeff Johns tends to do?
No, it doesn't. And
Okay. Does it read fast?
Yeah, well, not super. It's also oversized. I mean, this is a $6 issue.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of hard to compare it to a.
Well, it's got an extra $1 just for that cover. If you don't get that cover, it's $1 less.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
There's also back matter like there is with Watchmen, which I haven't read yet.
That's cool.
I just haven't had a chance to look at that part yet. But anyway, no, it's the journal parts take longer because it's journal, but then there are whole pages with very little words on them, where it's kind of more art driven. The panel layouts, of course, are very Watchmen. It's obviously we're not like just straight up aping what that book, what the art in that book looks like. So it's homage before it's trying to do it exactly. And I like the art in this fine.
That's Gary Frank. He's the Batman, your Earth One.
Okay, I forgot that's who that was. Yeah. I knew that name from somewhere, but yeah, and so like you notice it's his style.
This is what they're doing instead of Batman Earth One.
Okay, it's his good call because it's that team again. But yeah, it's Gary Frank's regular style, but then with the kind of facial expressions of Watchmen.
And the panel layouts, it looks like.
Like I said, in the panel layouts, yeah. As soon as we get to Superman, I don't care anymore.
You just want a sequel to Watchmen.
I just want to see, and I don't want a sequel to Watchmen, but I was enjoying the sequel to Watchmen. That's how I'm going to have my cake and eat it too on this, where that's not a thing I need. I think that story stands alone. I don't think there's anything else to say after that. That ending, that somewhat ambiguous ending, it's very clear what it's about and what it's saying. That world is going to fall apart, and is it really that interesting to see what happens afterwards? I don't know. I haven't said that. I enjoyed this up until I got to the Superman part, and it's not like that's badly written. I just don't need this integrated with DC, and
well, my big thing with this moving forward, as good or bad as this is, we can't leave anyone in the DC universe. I can't deal with that. If just
yeah, and that's what I don't know.
I don't want Night Owl running around in the DC universe after this is done. Like keep them away.
Yeah, and it's kind of a big secret right now where Night Owl is and what he's doing. You kind of expect. I guess I'm giving some things away, but we see the owl ship, and you kind of think he's going to come out of it, and then he doesn't, and it's a big mystery as to where he is. But yeah, I don't know if this is just a 12-issue maxi series leading up to a new status quo where Watchmen is integrated. I suspect that's what they're going to do.
Oh God, I
don't know. I suspect that's where we're going with it. I would have much preferred just, and I mean, you could call it the same thing. I would have much preferred, if you're going to do this, just a 12-issue sequel to, and frankly, I would have preferred that to before Watchmen. If you're going to do it, and
which is what the rumor was before.
Just treat it like Just treat it like sort of an Elseworlds thing, where it's like you don't have to count it. You can think of it as just a what if kind of like.
A lot of people do that with Dark Knight Strikes Again. They don't, even though it's by the exact same creative team, they don't acknowledge it as part of Dark Knight Returns.
It's not like it ruins Watchmen that it exists, but you also just don't really want to see that used as a cash cow for them, especially because the original creators don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the artist, Dave Gibbons, worked on before Watchmen.
Yeah, but since then, it doesn't seem like he's wanted anything to do with it.
Interesting.
I mean, I haven't read up on that a lot, but he's not involved in this. I mean, maybe he's just busy with other things, or just doesn't feel like working. I don't know, but but I'm just saying that, like, that gave before Watchmen, I guess, a little bit of credibility. But this doesn't have anybody attached that was connected to the original publication. One thing I'm unclear on, this is the last thing I'll say about it, one thing I'm unclear on when you get to the end of this is whether or not you're looking at our world's Superman or a Superman that somehow, or like a Clark Kent that exists in the world of Watchmen, because his backstory seems to differ. Like, his parents are both killed in like a car accident or something, so it looks like we're looking at an alternate Clark. Which is really weird with the recent, like, mixing all the Superman things together into one thing. But it doesn't make it clear that we're jumping to another universe or something. I'm not really sure what's going on there. I mean, obviously, I guess we'll find out, hopefully in not too many issues. But I didn't hate that. I'm weirdly kind of excited to see where it goes, even though I don't know that I want it to exist.
It is weird that it's coming out at the same time as Battle.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I don't understand why we're doing.
I've never seen a comic book company do two events at the same time.
And two major events. It's not like a minor event and a, like.
Yeah. No. This is
and
like
they're both selling huge numbers.
This is like this year's
event
and next
Clock,
year's event.
According to my comic shop guy, according to William at the comic shop, Doomsday Clock is selling like metal numbers. Like it is.
I mean, that's to be expected.
It is really big. Yeah, but you questioned it the other day, and that's why I mentioned it.
Did I?
Yeah. Well, we were talking about it, and you were like, "Well, nobody at our store seems to care." about it.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, across the land, it seems to actually be selling huge numbers.
That's dangerous. I don't want two events going on at the same time, like as a thing now. We're people will buy both of them.
It works as long as you tell them it's really important, and we'll just keep putting these covers on them and make them $6-7 and. But anyway, that's all I want to talk about today. I'll talk more. I'm not talking about character thematic stuff yet. It's one issue. I don't even know if I'll weigh in much more on it until it's over, and then maybe we can do a review on it. Like, will you read it? I mean, I know you don't want to buy it, but like, can I get you to read it?
If they don't stick around, I don't want to read it if they stick around.
Okay.
I just like I don't want to be a jerk or
you have no morbid curiosity about this.
I didn't even touch before Watchmen.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's prequel matter. That's like.
I don't want to be like a jerk or a prude, but like I think this is the lowest level of like corporate like ruining of artistic intent, and like I have a moral issue with it, kind of just like we are strip mining someone's work, someone that didn't intend for it to. I'm not saying I won't read it. But, like, I don't have any curiosity. Like, I'm not interested. And I don't like Watchmen as much as you do. Watchmen is a book I respect, but I don't go back to that often. It's not like I'm super invested in that world in the way that a lot of people are. Watchmen is oftentimes, like, a lot of people's, like, I read this once a year kind of a book.
Yeah.
I don't have that. Like, I think it's a good story.
I just love that world. I think it's really interesting. I love the details. I love how complex
I don't think I've read Watchmen since the movie came out. Like, I read it before the movie came out. I don't think I've gone back to it since. Like, it's not something for me that I'm super invested in, so like I don't even have that.
That's why I'm conflicted about the notion of extra material for Watchmen, because while I think it's perfect as not perfect, but it's brilliant as a piece, and especially with all the extra material with the back matter and whatever, it's this really complex world that you don't need more stuff from, because there's such a complex level of detail. It's hard not to sort of want more, even though I don't know that you should do more.
No, and that's totally fair. I just it's not. I
just like living in that world too much.
Yeah, and it's not a world I'm super invested in. Like I like Watchmen. I think it's certainly wonderful, but like it's not something that I've really lived in. And
it got me during an impressionable time. It's one of those things where I read it.
It's one of your first big comics, isn't it?
Well, I know I read it in early years of college.
Okay.
But it was it was definitely one of the first things I read that was not like typical mainstream superhero stuff. Like, it is superhero stuff.
Yeah.
But it's the first of those kinds of deconstructions that I've read, and that was
you didn't know
getting into the shades of gray, and not really. I just had a friend that said you need to read this, and I went and borrowed it from a library.
But yeah, I don't know. There's something icky to me about doing this.
Yeah.
And like,
no, I feel weird about it too.
I'm not saying I won't read it, but like, I really don't like that it exists. Just on principle, it shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
I know they own those characters in that property, and they can do whatever they want, but they should have the self-respect to not.
Well, and like again, I'm gonna sound like a hypocrite. I'm just conflicted. Like when there was talk about doing a sequel in movies, I was like, that's a terrible idea.
No, that's awful.
Let's never ever do that. But then, I'm enjoying the sequel part of this, and I don't know. So yeah, I feel funky talking about it, but there's how you like intellectually think about a thing, and there's how you emotionally think about a thing, and I can't deny that as soon as I came home, that was the first thing I read. Like, I just was too curious about it for whatever reason.
And to be fair, it is a really cool cover.
Yeah,
the Rorschach's face changes the symbols. Like, there's something about that where I was like, ooh, that's cool.
But it's the personification of the ickiness of it for you too.
It is. And the back is like that too, with the clock with the Superman. Like, it's just like, here's a Watchmen thing, here's a DC thing. Look how they're together.
Almost patting yourself on the back just for owning the rights to two different things.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, thanks a lot for watching, folks, and that's going to be it for today's Comic Vault.